You open your mail one day, and there's a letter from a company you haven't worked for in years, your old employer, and it says you're entitled to a pension. Most people's gut reaction to that sentence is pure joy, right? Free money from the past, like finding $20 in an old coat pocket. Except it's potentially tens of thousands of dollars. But then you read the fine print, and the joy turns into something closer to a headache. Because they're not just handing you a check, they're handing you a decision. And it's one of those decisions where there's no undo button. And look, I'll be honest with you. When I hear about people who actually have a pension waiting for them somewhere, there's a small, petty part of me that gets a little jealous. Outside of Social Security, pretty much every dollar I'm counting on in retirement is a dollar I have to go save myself, on my own, with no employer quietly building a benefit for me in the background. I'm self-employed, so there's no pension, there's no match, there's nothing. I get to set my own hours and work from a beach if I really want to, so it's not all bad. But there's no mystery envelope showing up in my mailbox one day with a surprise $24,000 attached to it. So when I came across this exact situation recently, posted by someone wrestling with exactly this choice, lump sum or monthly check, I found myself genuinely invested in figuring out the right answer, almost like it was my own decision to make. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't really a rare situation anymore. It's becoming a strange little artifact of an older era of employment. And a lot of people inheriting these old pensions have absolutely no framework for thinking through what to do with them. They're left guessing. And guessing with this kind of money is exactly how people end up with regret 10 or 20 years down the line. Hello, I'm Anne. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. Here's the actual situation, because I think hearing the real numbers makes this click way faster than talking about it in the abstract. Someone posted this exact dilemma online recently. Their old employer is offering them two paths. Door number one, take a lump sum of around $24,000 right now, all at once, into your account. Done. Door number two, take about $100 a month for the rest of your life, no matter how long that turns out to be. Now, sit with that for a second, because I want you to notice your own instinct here. What's your gut telling you? A lot of people hear $24,000 today, and their brain just lights up like a slot machine. That's real. That's tangible. That's a number you can picture in your bank account tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, $100 a month sounds, frankly, a little insulting. It sounds like the kind of money you'd find rolling around in your couch cushions over a year, not a meaningful retirement benefit. But here's the thing. Your gut is not a financial calculator. Your gut is an animal that evolved to want food now, shelter now, safety now. It is spectacularly bad at comparing a pile of cash today against a thin but endless stream of cash for the next 30 or 40 years. And that gap between what your gut wants and what the math actually says is exactly where people make six-figure mistakes on decisions like this. So let's not let your gut make this call alone. Let's actually do the math, and I promise you it is not complicated. It just requires about 90 seconds of arithmetic that almost nobody bothers to do before they sign the form. Let's talk about why pensions even work this way in the first place, because understanding the why actually helps the decision make a lot more sense. Decades ago, if you worked for a company for 30 years, there was a real chance you'd retire with a pension. The company took on the risk, the company managed the investments, and the company promised to pay you a set amount every single month until you died, no matter what the stock market did, no matter how long you lived. That was the deal. That deal has almost vanished from the private sector. Most companies looked at the math on their end, realized that promising to pay people forever is expensive and unpredictable, and pivoted hard toward 401k plans instead, where you take on the investment risk and the company just kicks in a match if you're lucky. So if you're one of the shrinking number of people who actually has an old school pension sitting out there from a past job, congratulations. You're holding on to something that's becoming rare, which is exactly why this decision deserves more attention than people give it. This isn't a routine choice. It's closer to a one-time, no-redo financial fork in the road. So here's the core question buried inside this whole decision. And once you understand this one concept, the entire thing gets simple. The question is this: how long do you have to live for the monthly payments to beat the lump sum? That number has an actual name. It's called your break-even age. And calculating it is honestly almost embarrassingly simple once you see it laid out. Picture two piles of money sitting side by side. Pile 1 is the lump sum, $24,000, sitting there in full from day one. Pile 2 starts at 0 and grows by $100 every single month for the rest of your life. The question is just, at what point does Pile 2 catch up to and pass Pile 1? If you're getting $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year. Divide 24,000 by 1,200 and you get 20. 20 years. That's how long it takes the monthly payments to add up to the same total as the lump sum. So if this person becomes eligible for the lump sum at age 65, their break-even age is roughly 85. Live to 85, and the two options are basically a wash in raw dollar terms. Live past 85, and the monthly payments quietly become the better deal, sometimes by a lot. Pass away before 85, and in hindsight, the lump sum would have put more total money in your pocket, or in your family's pocket. Think of it like two different kinds of bets you can place on your own future. The lump sum is a bet on yourself and the market. A bet that says, give me the money now and I'll either spend it on something that matters to me today, or I'll go grow it faster than the pension fund would have. The monthly check is a bet on longevity. A bet that says, I think I'm going to be around for a long time, and I want that bet to pay off every single month for the rest of my life, no matter what the economy does, no matter what happens to my investments. Neither bet is reckless. They're just different bets placed on different things, and the break-even age is simply the line where one bet starts beating the other. Now here's where I want you to pause, because this is the part where most people stop thinking and just go with their gut anyway, even after seeing the math. They think, 85, that's so far away. Who knows what'll happen? I'll just take the cash. And look, I get the impulse. But before you make that call, you need to actually think about your own odds of living past 85, not some vague abstract feeling about it. If your parents and grandparents lived into their 90s, if you don't smoke, if you're in decent health, 85 might not be some wild long shot. It might genuinely be the more likely outcome. Run that number for your own life, your own family history, your own health. Before you let 85 feels far away, make a financial decision for you. There's another layer to this that almost nobody factors in, and it's honestly the part that tilts this decision more than people realize. It's about timing, and specifically what's happening with interest rates right now. Here's the mechanism in plain English. When a pension calculates how big a lump sum to offer you, they're essentially asking, how much money would we need to set aside today at current interest rates so that it grows into enough to cover all those future monthly payments? When interest rates are low, you need a bigger pile of money today to eventually generate those future payments. So lump sum offers tend to be larger. When interest rates are higher, that same pile of money today can grow faster and stretch further on its own. So the lump sum offer gets smaller. Higher rates, smaller buyout. Lower rates, bigger buyout. And we are, broadly speaking, in a higher rate environment than we were just a few years ago, back during the stretch when rates were sitting near zero. What that means in practice is that lump sum offers being floated right now tend to be noticeably smaller than the lump sum offers that would have been on the table for the exact same pension just a handful of years back. Same pension, same monthly benefit, smaller buyout check, purely because of where rates happen to sit today. That's not a guess. That's literally how the formula works under the rules pensions are required to follow. So if you're staring at a lump sum offer right now and thinking it feels low, you might be right. And it's worth knowing that's not random. It's the rate environment talking. Now, let's flip over and talk about the other side of this, because the monthly payment option has its own hidden wrinkle, and it's not a small one. That $100 a month today buys you $100 worth of stuff. Groceries, gas, whatever. But pensions like this are typically fixed. They do not get a raise. Inflation, on the other hand, does not take years off. Even at a modest, boring inflation rate, that $100 a month is going to buy noticeably less in 20 years than it buys today. It's not going to zero, don't panic, but it is quietly shrinking in real purchasing power every single year you collect it. Compare that to something like Social Security, which actually does get adjusted upward most years to try to keep pace with inflation. A private pension, in most cases, just doesn't do that for you. So that guaranteed for life promise is real, but it's a guarantee of a shrinking dollar amount in real terms. And you should go in with your eyes open about that. So now you've got two real, true things sitting in tension with each other. Take the cash, and you've got a real, current lump of money you control completely. But you're giving up a guaranteed income stream for as long as you live. And pension math right now is leaning toward smaller buyouts than it used to. Take the monthly check, and you've got rock-solid predictability for the rest of your life. But the dollar amount slowly loses purchasing power. And if you don't end up living long enough, you mathematically come out behind. Now, the simple break-even math we just walked through is genuinely useful. It's the right starting point. And honestly, it'll get most people 80% of the way to a smart decision. But if you want to go a layer deeper, there's a concept underneath all of this that makes the picture a bit more nuanced. And it's worth understanding even if you never run the full calculation yourself. It's called the time value of money. And the basic idea is this: a dollar sitting in your hand today is worth more than a dollar that's promised to you 10 years from now, even if it's literally the same number of dollars. Why? Because the dollar today can be put to work immediately. It can sit in an account earning interest. It can be invested. It can grow. The dollar arriving a decade from now hasn't had any of that time to compound. What that means for our break-even math is that the simple version, where we just divided $24,000 by $1,200 a year and called it 20 years, is actually a little generous to the monthly payment option. Because that calculation treats every dollar the same, whether it shows up this year or 20 years from now, and in reality, dollars further out in the future are worth a bit less in today's terms. If you wanted to get really precise, you'd discount each future monthly payment back to what it's actually worth in today's money, and add all of those discounted amounts together. Then compare that total against the $24,000 lump sum sitting in your hand right now. When people run that more rigorous version of the math, the true break-even age often creeps a little higher than the simple version suggests, sometimes by a few years, depending on what kind of return you assume you could get by investing the lump sum instead. Now, I'm not going to walk you through a present value formula on screen, because honestly, for a pension this size, it's overkill, and it won't change your decision dramatically. But I want you to walk away understanding the direction it pushes things. The more confident you are that you could invest a lump sum and earn a solid return on it, the more that tilts the scale toward taking the cash. Because you're not just comparing $24,000 against $100 a month. You're comparing $24,000 that's actively growing against $100 a month that's sitting flat. That's a meaningfully different comparison than the simple version, and it's exactly why financial advisors don't just stop at the basic break-even age when they're helping someone work through a decision like this. Let's talk about what actually tips the scale one way or the other, because the break-even age is the starting point, not the whole answer. First, your health and your family history. This is the single biggest lever in this whole decision. If you come from a family where people regularly live into their 90s and you're in solid health yourself, the math quietly tilts toward the monthly check because you're more likely to clear that break-even age and come out ahead. If you're dealing with health conditions that genuinely shorten your expected timeline, the lump sum starts looking like the smarter, more honest choice because you might never get the chance to outlive the break-even point. Second, what would you actually do with the lump sum? This matters more than people give it credit for. If you took that $24,000 and invested it sensibly, growing at a reasonable long-term rate, there's a real chance it could outpace what the monthly payments would have delivered, even past the break-even age, because your money is out there working and compounding instead of just sitting as a flat $100 check. But, and this is a big but, that only works if you actually invest it and leave it alone. If that $24,000 is going to get spent on a kitchen renovation or a truck, or just slowly evaporate into daily life over a couple years, then the entire advantage of taking the lump sum disappears, and you would have been better off with the guaranteed monthly income the whole time. Be honest with yourself here. Are you someone who invests a windfall, or are you someone who spends a windfall? That answer matters as much as the math does. Third, what else do you have lined up for retirement? If this pension is just one small slice of a much bigger retirement picture, with solid Social Security, a healthy 401k, maybe some other savings, then a little less predictability isn't such a big deal, and taking the lump sum to maybe boost your investments isn't a crazy risk. But if this little pension is doing some real heavy lifting in your overall retirement plan, the guaranteed monthly check starts looking a lot more valuable because predictable income that never runs out is worth more to people who don't have a deep cushion underneath them. Fourth, and don't skip this one, your own psychology. Some people sleep better at night knowing a check is coming in every single month, no matter what happens to the stock market, no matter what happens to the economy, no matter what mistakes they might make along the way. That peace of mind has real value, even if you can't perfectly put a dollar figure on it. Other people would rather have control over their own money, even if it comes with more risk, because the idea of a small fixed check for life feels limiting to them. Neither mindset is wrong, but you have to know which one actually describes you instead of just going with whatever sounds smarter in a YouTube video. Now, I do want to be upfront about something, because in this specific case, we're talking about a fairly modest pension, $24,000 or $100 a month. That's a manageable amount to reason through on your own with a calculator and some honest self-reflection about your health and habits. But if your situation involves a pension that's considerably bigger, we're talking 6 figures of lump sum potential, or a monthly payment that's actually substantial, this is exactly the kind of decision where it's worth having an actual financial advisor run the full numbers for your specific case. Not because the math gets harder, the math stays just as simple, but because a good advisor can fold in things like your other income sources, tax implications, your specific health situation, and spot blind spots that are genuinely easy to miss when you're doing this kind of decision solo, especially when there's real money on the line and zero chance to undo it once you've signed. So let's bring this all the way back to something you can actually use today. If someone handed you this exact choice tomorrow, here's the order of operations I'd want you to walk through. Step 1. Calculate your own break-even age using the math we just walked through. Lump sum divided by your annual monthly total. Then add that to whatever age you'd start receiving the lump sum. Step 2. Be brutally honest about your own life expectancy based on your actual health and your actual family history. Not vague optimism and not doom and gloom either, just the real picture. Step 3. Ask yourself honestly whether you're a person who would invest a lump sum and let it grow, or a person who would spend it within a couple of years, because that answer changes everything. Step 4. Look at how much this pension actually matters in your bigger retirement picture. Is it a nice bonus or is it load-bearing? And step 5. If the numbers are big enough to genuinely move your retirement outcome, don't go it completely alone. Get a second set of eyes from an actual advisor before you sign anything. Here's the real takeaway I want you to walk away with. There is no universally correct answer between the lump sum and the monthly payment. People online love to argue about this like there's one objectively right move, and there just isn't. What there is a right answer for your specific health, your specific habits, and your specific retirement picture. The math gives you the starting line, that break-even age, but you are the one who has to be honest about which side of that line your own life is actually going to land on. Do that homework now, before you sign anything, because once that form goes in, this is one of those financial decisions you don't get to take back. If this helped untangle the way you think about pension decisions, stick around, because there's a lot more retirement math like this worth understanding before you're the one staring down that envelope in the mail.